You are online, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring our city council work session to order for April 8th, 2024. And we'll just dive right in. We'll start with a review of our previous work session action items. First one up is short-term rentals.
So as I mentioned a few months ago, I would kind of put together some information in a packet of stuff for you. Underneath your agenda, you'll see several pieces of paper here. The first one actually is a kind of a draft. It's an amendment to our Monroe Land Use Code that defines how you would actually apply and get a short-term rental. Short-term rentals, as I have found, are conditional use activities. However, the way this is defined as a type 1 decision. So it's an administrative decision. So that's why you have several pages of definitions and process and procedures and that type of thing. Because on a type 1 decision, that's something that I would do, but I would basically have a checklist saying, have you met all these things?
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't, then it goes out of my hands.
They can appeal it to us, yeah.
It goes to
Or the planning commission.
Or to the council.
Yeah.
It goes to the planning. But it's designed so that you can go that route. The second part of it, you can read through this. This is actually very, most of the cities at this point have most of this information. They have, it's a permit, it's an application, a land use application. Then it has a permit, a business license, and then along with the business license, you also fill out your Department of Revenue tax forms, okay? Because I think for the city of Monroe, we would want the Oregon Department of Revenue to handle the taxes for us and give us our cut as a bill, so we don't have to deal with that. This, by the way, is this top page that says definitions, although it says Monroe, this was actually taken from the city of Talent, which has a very, very, very well put together land use codes and everything else. Plus, yes, that's right between Mount Phoenix, Talent, Medford, and between Medford and Ashland. So you can imagine they get quite a bit down there for both skiing and with the Shakespearean Festival and other things. And that was one of the areas that I think perhaps someone on council had suggested looking on the coast and looking at Southern Oregon. But Talent seemed very, very close to where we were at here in the road. And the other nice thing is those have all the forms and everything already done. So, you know, it's very nice to take other people's work and repurpose it as we.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So I'm gonna, on the second page, you see definitions. So look on the back side, the very top. It says the dwelling unit to be used as a short-term rental must be a primary residence of the applicant, et cetera, et cetera. I've been following some of the case laws that have been coming out in Narland and Austin, and you see a lot of things. You see short-term rental and ordinances and restrictions. Up until a few weeks ago, the federal courts have said that that particular paragraph was unconstitutional. However, that was struck down. So now it is.
What was their argument for it being unconstitutional?
It dealt with some obscure thing with the commerce law. That you cannot restrict people from, if you bought a home in Narlands, and for the purpose of renting it out, and the city said, sorry, you don't live there, you can't rent it out. They considered that a violation of commerce. Another federal judge, however, higher up district struck it down. I imagine this will go, it's hard to say whether this will go to the Supreme Court or not, but right as of this moment, the courts have held in city's favors. In other words, they've held in favor of supporting the zone, properly adopted zoning laws and everything else. They've upheld the cities. And said that no, cities do have a right to restrict how, when, where, place of what is appropriate for the zoning. I imagine that there was a House bill, Senate Bill 619 a few years ago in the state of Oregon that attempted to restrict or say the cities couldn't do that. It never even got to the floor. So there was a lot of opposition to it. But I would imagine that going down the road, the states will probably have to weigh in. But at the moment, the courts were upholding local zoning laws on that. So requiring in this particular instance, and most do, but not all do, require that the person renting short-term rentals is also a resident of the place too, or at least most of the year anyways, you can read. And again, this is an example I thought of, kind of put together a lot of the different cities that have short-term rentals or are dealing with it. The second, the second page, and this is from the city of Salem. This is from the model codes, actually, this format. Ours is not like this. Ours just has basically several paragraphs that says what's permitted, what's not permitted, what's conditional. You can see this is just for one zone. And if you read it, it's a chart, basically, and it basically details everything. So if you look on, say, the second page, say page 2 of 14, it says lodging, and you can see short-term commercial lodging and short-term rentals. It's conditional, and it's conditional in Salem. It's conditional on the same thing. It's a permit. You got to have a business license, and then go to planning with the same kind of criteria, similar criteria, and that's why it's conditional. It's still considered a type 1 in Salem. Portland has something very similar, but they have both type 1 and type 2, depending on how big the operation is. But it's also in the code. So in our system, we would have to do exactly the same thing. We would have to modify our codes to say that short-term rentals are a conditional use. And then an ordinance, another land use ordinance similar to the first page that defines what the conditional use in the application and then the process is. The third page, you asked, what are other cities doing? Well, I found there are several sites now that kind of aggregate this, and this is the page that starts with Bend at the top. And this is a summary of their codes. So you can see the code is actually pretty much more extensive. Also as like Newport is also very extensive as well. Has very much the same. Here it says you have to have at least you must submit the following documentation electronically, including voter registration, Oregon driver's license, federal income tax returns. Eugene, a little bit less annual registration, which is an easy process with no registration fee. Occupancy, very simple. Portland have kind of two different types of. And Salem, which is actually what we have here for the definitions, but they also require rental and license, proof of residence, proof of insurance, safety certification, site plan and floor plan, the tax operator registration form, and the license application form, along with the fees and that type of thing associated with it.
Were there any smaller cities that?
Is about our size. A little bit.
Okay. I just know because all these ones are like.
Yeah, those are banned, I understand, but they're also, the reason why I have those there is because these are the cities that have the lawyers and the people that review things. That's the reason why I have that as kind of a. If you go to the coast, you have smaller, but coasts have vacation, they have special things, and they have vacation overlays. And things are allowed in the vacation overlay or within so many feet of the beach and things that I could say so many feet of the lagoons.
You
Or
can
the
watch Ned and
Longtime
Nancy.
River, I guess. It doesn't, the coastals, when you read it, they're kind of different animals because they really do have a problem with housing.
The Monroe is now.
They are, yeah.
They've grown a lot.
They grow. And actually, I'm supposed to be doing there. I'm supposed to be going to a short term rental. But these are examples of what it is. The last page of this are concentration limit examples. I tried to pull some examples from all of these that limit the concentration. That is probably across the country. This is probably the one that has the most controversy, I guess. Because if you're in an area like Narlands or the coast where a lot of people are investing in homes for the specific purpose of renting them, not living there, just renting them, then cities are really want to limit that. Simply because all of you don't end up with anyone in the town, you just end up with rentals.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue right now in Newport, several places on the coast. And big cities that are tourist attractions in and of themselves are having issues with that.
And it degrades a lot of historic architecture also, if many of them are converted into rentals. I think that's an issue that New Orleans is facing right now, is a
Yes.
lot of their old historic buildings and those really cool like shotgun houses are being turned into rentals and they're not being cared for. I
And
stayed at one once, it's terrible.
it is, and that's what I read. It was, I was reading, I found that in the court case, and that was reading the history and the background behind. Austin, Texas has a similar situation. So you have a lot of these areas that have historic backgrounds or historic structures that are being turned into short-term rentals. So we had talked about several of those things, and so I gave several examples from other cities as well to look at. I don't think that, this is certainly open for your discussion. It's not an easy, this is a complex, much more complex than just simply saying, let's do short-term rentals. There's a lot to it. And I think there's been a lot of, in my reading and pulling things up and looking at it, there's a lot of thought that's been given to it. Clearly, I mean, there's not just a few pages or a few sentences, but several pages of this is how it should be in the application. And I can see after reading it why you would do it. Simply because it gives protection to everybody. One of the interesting things that something we don't do, but I certainly like the idea. Right now, the city spends our time and does a lot of stuff on behalf of people. Like, for instance, mailing out notices and all that. A lot of cities, like Talent, as an example, say, nope, you're required to get mailing notices, either hand delivered or mail to everyone within a 250-foot radius of your property. That's in the land use laws. That's in our land use code. Right now, the city's doing all that work on behalf of the individual.
And it should be the individual's job.
And
Should be
they
theirs.
basically sign it and self-certify that they've done it.
Either that or charge a fee that covers the
Administrative costs.
administrative time and costs for the city to manage that.
You can, however, when you only have a few staff,
Oh, yeah, no, but I was just saying,
Yeah,
basically,
you could.
that's your options, is basically,
How does that get certified? The neighbor says, oh, sure, I did these things, and then we just, Talent would just say, okay, you said you did these things, we trust you, or is there a way to confirm or follow up?
they have to, okay, so what happens is that someone gets there and says, I didn't get this. In which case the penalty is that you lied on your application. So you sign your life away when you do this. And you certify that you've done this.
And chances are you're probably not gonna get approved if you lied on your application.
That is exactly what it says.
Good.
So the application, which I did not attach, it also mimics the ordinance as well as all of them do.
I am supportive of short-term rentals, just. I think that we're in a geographic location that is conducive to it, but I do think that if we proceed, we should do it with a lot of intention and careful thought, because I can see how it could really change the feel of the town. I mean, we could have more of the situation up the street, you know, I just think, I think it's worth considering still, but I am maybe not as quick or excited about jumping into it as before, because you can tell that a lot of thought has to go into an ordinance or policy for it. A lot.
That was based on the last month of picking things and looking at different cities and looking at how much they've gone through. I would agree. And it isn't just Oregon or the coast, it's nationwide.
Yeah.
And it is affecting a lot of towns in terms of their ability to retain their growth and stability. This rental market is really a very
It can be damaging.
damaging in a lot of ways because of that. So I would concur that being thoughtful, which is why I kind of gave this information. I mean, I hate to give you homework
No, I appreciate it.
and not
Thank
just
you.
feed you saying, here's what I
Yeah.
think, because these are just examples of what we need to do. Once it's done, this also has to become a public hearing to adopt it. We also have to give the town notice, just as we would. It also has to go to the DLCD. They have 45 days to accept it or reject it.
I'm sorry, what is the DLC?
Department of Lands,
Oh.
Department of Land Conservation Department,
Okay.
Division. Those folks, the ones that control the land in Oregon. Department of Lands.
They're our
And we
friends.
have to give, anytime we make a code change. So there's a lot of time involved with this. I mean, we have to give them 45 days to review it. Now, it doesn't mean we can't enact, but what would it mean would be is as soon as we give notice to this town that we're going to enact an ordinance and change the land use codes, immediately that goes to the DLCD.
Right.
We then have to give 20 days notice regardless, and then typically if we pass the ordinance, it goes 30 days after that. So by the time it goes into effect, DLCD will have had an option and have an opportunity to tell us what they like or don't like.
Right. Thumbs up or down.
And then as far as like, if we implemented a transient lodging tax, that'd be a separate, that would be a separate ordinance altogether, because that would include both short-term rentals and also commercial businesses, like if a hotel or motel or something was to
So
open.
we would enact the ordinance that states how it's gonna work and what the tax is going to be. And it's going to be on top of what the county or, also might charge.
Yeah,
And then when people come in and fill out the form, they will fill out a Department of Revenue, a DOR form that automatically registers them, and they are now required to file quarterly.
well, and also like, I think once it's on the books, a lot of those, Airbnb and all those work as an intermediary, and they just collect them
Yes.
when the thing is processed, so the person that's doing operating the rental isn't even really having to,
Do it.
they don't have to file, there's not like
Airbnb.
basically Airbnb or whoever would be the ones filing the forms and
Unless they work.
and remitting the taxes or whatever.
Thank you for all this.
Welcome.
Good stuff to look through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please keep it, look through it, and I will continue, but I'm kind of narrowing down what it is. It really does depend, I think, a lot on where you want this allowed in town. At this point, most everyone has residential areas. I mean, so in our case, it's very simple, GRA, GRB. All commercial activities have to go through a conditional use regardless, unless that's changed, but I think that's probably has to go through planning review, let's put it that way, according to our ordinances. The second part would be how you want to, I think probably the most thoughtful one is where and how do you want the short-term rentals to be? Example, not within 500 feet from each other. one per block face. But maybe one per block face, but not directly across from each other. There's another,
Staggered.
yeah, diagonally, but not directly across.
Mhm.
Et cetera. 40% of your available residential stock. No more than X many for the entire city.
40% even seems high to me.
That's the
Or maybe
cost.
that's.
That
oh, that's the
that was a
cost.
Newport
Okay.
example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Our example, I think we used the fourth one there was, X, just, 12,
Mhm.
per city.
Yeah, like if we look at our inventory and there's,
Available housing.
200 houses or something, then yeah, you could say, oh, well, we wouldn't want more than 10% or something
Right,
being used for that. And so we would only issue that many X amount of licenses or whatever per
Right.
year.
per year, or per.
Yeah, or at any given time,
So
basically.
so that's a decision that you would need to make.
Yeah.
In the talent one, you see there's also restrictions on how many people per bedroom. Or 2 people per bedroom. Now, the reason why that is to make sure that big bachelor party or whatever. And that is what a lot of cities, and I've talked to a few cities where in Ashland, for instance, that's a huge concern. People will come there, not necessarily for the Shakespearean Festival, but because they can get out of their town and have basically trash someplace that isn't theirs
Yeah,
and cause a lot of issues and problems.
Shasta alternative.
Yeah, and so there you go. So you have these noise complaints and other issues.
Right.
The talent folks is really quite interesting that they require someone 18 years or older to be within X many miles. And that name has to go on the application when you,
Co-signing.
yeah, basically, when you put this out, when you send out your 250-foot notice,
Yeah.
they know who you are and they know who to call in case there's an issue or problem.
That's awesome.
So you can read that. I mean, this is very, it holds people's feet to the fire a little bit. But
Yeah.
that's an example. You don't, some of these are interesting. I didn't see anything that was terribly onerous in terms of, no, we shouldn't do that. But anyway,
Well, you want to make it easy to implement and, people are more likely to comply if there's a streamlined kind of process. And also we don't have the staff to
right. And if people,
be dealing with anything that's too complicated or too.
well, I can't be, we can't be out there enforcing these
Yeah,
things. But if-
it's-
But if they have a direct line to the people that are responsible and they don't, then it's a very easy thing to say, you know what, you're not complying with your license.
Just from my understanding, some basic historical context, like there's not been, except for the issue they had up the street around Ninth area. I mean, has there been any history of short-term rentals going on here that we know of?
Well, in modern context, no. In historical context, going back 100 some years,
Well, I mean, not
yes.
that
I
far,
mean,
but
there's been a lot that the town's always has some sort of boarding facility or something of nature because of the nature of the agricultural community.
Right,
People coming down
absolutely.
here to do that work. After World War II, I understand there were a lot of folks that came in, but soldiers that came down and were put in homes and places before they could, disperse. So
In the last 8
there's
years,
a new, but in terms of short-term rentals that I am aware of or the city is aware of, no. I mean, I'm sure it has happened where someone has said, hey, sure, I'll rent out my facility for a month to you and all that, but we don't notice, we notice the families because it's a small town. We have the ability, the luxury of knowing who belongs and who doesn't, or doesn't look familiar and who doesn't.
okay, so this is being more proactive and just,
Right,
Well, it's basically right now, it's supposed to they could have just went to the planning commission and, submitted whatever to get, conditional use and all that stuff. Basically, it can be kind of an arduous process, so. And also it takes up planning commission's time with stuff that probably doesn't always need to be, I don't know, there's bigger fish to fry, I think, it's on some things. So trying to streamline like a process,
It's just a-
so that people can do it without, yeah.
It's just, yeah, no, it just helps me understand kind of the historical context and the precipice of why we're.
But I think it became more of an issue once like these apps and stuff like that started making it easier to advertise.
Need to do something, for sure.
We do have one person.
So that's why it's more
in
modern.
Christmas Junction, Misty Croson would like to rent out her upper end as a short-term rental or agribusiness or agritourism or for her own purposes.
I think she said she wanted to do like a Christmas themed,
Right, so she tells me she was in kind of discussing with me this, but she refuses to pay $400 for a conditional use, but she says she's losing thousands of dollars a month. So I'm not certain why you would not want to spend and get a conditional use and
Recover your costs.
recover your costs quickly, rather than wait for this process, which I said, at best, could take 2 months, maybe 3 months to complete.
Right.
So
is that building zone commercial though?
it is, but it's not, short-term rentals aren't allowed, or any lodging is allowed in short-term in commercial.
There's no, like, you can't have a hotel in town
You
on commercial
could,
property?
you can, but it's not permitted.
What do you mean? Like basically because it wasn't that in the first place, then,
No, because it's not explicitly in the code. So if it's not explicitly in the code, if it's not explicitly in black and white,
I thought you said in commercial, it's not an issue. Because there was another one that was down I don't know, 2 buildings down or whatever that was doing Airbnbs or something, I thought, out of,
we didn't permit it. That was Raina Waltz.
yeah.
We didn't permit
So,
it.
yeah, and I think that is also kind of triggering, like fueling this big conversation is like there is more and more interest and people are just not
Right.
Right,
We
going
don't
through
have a
the.
process, and it would be nice to have. a
right.
process.
So in our ordinances, in the Monroe Land Use Code, and actually this was interesting, it was actually supported by a judge. Someone sued a city saying, well, it wasn't in writing, so therefore I can do it. The judge says, no, that's not how land use codes work. If it's not explicitly permitted, then it is in fact a conditional use. So it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you got to go before the planning
Yeah, a
commission.
couple hoops to go through.
And in all, in our code, all commercial zones, any new commercial activity has to go to the planning commission regardless.
Right.
You have to at least go through planning review, even if it is permitted. So the city has made that a very strong requirement for anyone to come in. Whether or not you can actually do some of the things that we say you can do, like for instance, force a business to comply with colors and all that. There are some court cases that suggest you can't,
Oh,
but
Ashland did it for a long time. I mean, I know they can't anymore and they aren't anymore, but they did for decades.
yep. And we do too in our Riverside District overlay,
Yeah.
but there are suggestions that you cannot do that. I mean, court, but I haven't explored it enough. I just explored one court case. In my travels through short-term rentals and cities and everything else.
Oh, yes.
This is a very contentious issue between the Airbnbs, the Verbos, people who have bought investment properties. And you can imagine, and there's hedge funds that also invest in these things, and there's some very powerful people behind that. So at the moment, the courts have sided with the cities.
Okay.
Thank you for providing the additional context. I appreciate that.
Not a
And all
problem.
the work you've done. This is awesome.
Well, thank you. It's,
Homework.
yeah, please look at how you want your city to look. It really is, because this has, not that a huge amount of people I think are gonna flock to Monroe to do that, but you never know. mean, there are things that can happen, for instance, with University of Oregon or,
It never hurts to be proactive.
when you
Yeah,
have a
for
big,
sure.
Big Ten school now, you're gonna have millions of people flocking into Eugene.
Mhm.
You may very well be an epicenter for short-term rentals.
Mhm. Counselor Cuthbertson, did you have anything? You had your hand raised for a little bit. Was there anything you wanted to add? Yes.
It was a pocket hand raise, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay.
I'm just looking through well, and also like a transient, I mean, I think a transient lodging tax would be good for funding something like economic development or beautification or parks or something that would drive tourism. I mean, it seems like that would be related and a reasonable thing to be funding with that.
Mhm.
But I think if we implemented it, we should figure out what we want to use it for and not just throw it in the general.
I agree. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next item on the agenda? Library IGA.
I don't have anything in the library at the moment.
Okay.
It's
No
basically,
updates.
now she's, actually Chavez will be on the 22nd to give you that.
Mhm.
She is very anxious to know what we think about it. I'm still trying to, it really does boil down to janitorial costs for the building.
So she hasn't given an idea of what, or is she just wanting to give us the same thing that basically we had before?
Essentially, what she would like is an MOU, a separate, what she wants is that the IGA to state that there's going to be for janitorial and that type of thing, a separate MOU, rather than in the IGA itself. So removing the Monroe takes care of everything, janitorial costs to services will be, in an MOU to be decided at another point.
That's
Personally, I
kicking it
think,
down the road.
well, of course it is, and of course it also is trying to keep the IGA intact.
Yeah.
So that's the
Sure.
bargaining chip at the moment is the IGA.
Whatever.
I have been told that it would take 3 to 4 hours to do a proper janitorial cleaning of that library, of
Every
that
night.
size, of everything, 3 to 4 hours a day. Now,
That's,
That's a lot.
What, no.
hold the phone.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked for, in the food and beverage industry, and we have sanitation practices, and sometimes in large facilities, there's, very high level of cleaning that has to go on, and we wouldn't even have 3 to 4 hours worth of cleaning. That's extensive cleaning.
yes, it is.
I think part of the issue is the librarians don't want to even clean up after themselves in the
Or the kids or anything. like
So that hour came from a professional group had no connection to bidding or any skin in the teeth.
Objective.
I gave them, they were very objective, rather than just telling me what I wanted to hear because I wanted a little bit.
How big, what's the square footage that are we talking about there that would actually need to be cleaned? And then there's how many restrooms are
You
there?
have 3 restrooms.
yeah,
You have 3 restrooms.
There's
You
a
have
staff.
you have a large conference room. This is big as this size here.
Mhm,
A smaller one that's used, plus the library, which is carpeted,
mhm.
okay, and a common area, the lobby area as
Mhm.
well. We're also including windows and that type of thing.
I don't doubt that wouldn't add up to that much time, but does it need to be done daily? Could it be done every second or third day?
well, there's a lot of
Okay,
stuff
all right.
that's, yeah.
I would say to all your questions, yes. And having been a janitorial person, I would say I can fully support 3 to 4 hours
Daily?
part of the day,
Yeah.
part of the time. The real question is, what does that building need
Mhm.
in order for it to, you have old wood floors, new wood floors, you have a very complicated inside. This is not a textured walls. It's very complex. So the question is, to what level you want it to be cleaned
Yeah.
and what level is acceptable. And it has to be a professional group that has to make that decision. And the question then is, how much is that gonna cost you?
Yeah.
Okay, as a city. I mean, we all wanna say it might not cost us anything to do it, but I can tell you that those floors are, it's in bad shape at the moment and needs a lot of attention. Otherwise, we're basically kicking the can down the road with the library in terms of maintenance, just like we did with the city did with the water system. I mean, it's easy to do that because floors look okay for now, but I can tell you it needs a lot, you know, I know right now Ron spends about 2 hours, 3 hours, about every other day there. And sometimes 4. And even then, the corners and things aren't getting, you know, it's not.
Yeah.
It needs to be taken care of.
Well,
And
they have
it's getting more use. You have kids there. You have a lot of
Yeah,
things
for
going
sure.
on. I mean, it's not as though it is a,
Well, I know a part-time staffer at $20 an hour, probably be $25,000 a year or somewhere in that ballpark after with the taxes and the PERS and all that stuff figured into it. I mean, and that'd be for, you know,
right, so if you look at.
15 to 20
janitorial
hours a
staff,
week probably.
Yeah, you're looking at about $32,000 for our 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And that's a cost that that Monroe would cover fully. We wouldn't share that with Corvallis, Benton County.
Well,
Library.
That's what, if they had their way.
if they had their.
The current IGA says that's basically what we should be doing.
However, what I would say is that we would take 4 hours of that time and give it to them. And let them pay for it. Ashley thinks that perhaps, and I think I mentioned this, that they could find other ways of doing that. I think eventually, I think she has mentioned, and I would agree, that she needs to look at her taxes. Of course, that's always hard for libraries because libraries depend a lot on donations, a lot of goodwill, and they don't want to PO the taxpayers because taxpayers don't like it. You know, Corvallis will always vote for a tax levy or a library levy. So what I mentioned to her, and I think I mentioned this to you when I said, well, our only other option is to raise a fee for that. Then she did not like that at all because that, of course, would antagonize the city of, it would illuminate the issue. That the city of Monroe is being told that they have to do all the janitorial work for a community library that serves
More than
South Benton County. And that's what it was designed to do, and that's what Benton County is contracting with the library to do. So whether it takes 4 hours a day or 10 hours a day is not really as much the issue is how much is Corvallis going to pay for their services there. I mean, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is how much do they, you know, want? You know, right now I have a librarian who's putting dimes and quarters and things in various places to see whether or not the janitor picks things up. So he just simply puts it up and puts it on their desk. But that's the kind of stuff that is currently going on.
That is petty, yeah, that's.
So. I told Ron he could have a second retirement, you know.
But I don't know. I mean, it seems like they also just want to run things and control that building.
They believe it's
So-
theirs because they believe it was
But,
not
I
built
mean-
by Monroe, it was built by them.
Yeah, but I mean, we own it. We could do an IGA and rent it to them for $1 a year and they can pay for everything. And
I think.
you know what I mean? Like it's,
My counter.
if they want to control
Right.
of the building and also we're not, you know, if we're not having access to it and the citizens, you know, outside of, you know, whatever the library is doing doesn't have access to it, then, you know, they should just pay for. all
So
of it.
that is another option, you know, one option, you know, what this really, I believe, should have been framed more as is a lease to Benton County with the option for them to sublease to Corvallis or whoever they wanted to contract with, okay, to provide library services. It is Benton County that is responsible for this, not City of Corvallis. So whether it's in an IGA type of thing, but it's more like, you think of it as a lease. We lease it to Benton County for $1, you know, and to provide library services, and you can sublease it, and here's the conditions. You take care of it. So that's.
Yeah, and
another-
that way they'd
that's
be
another-
responsible for the, you know, all of the, everything. Yeah.
The whole thing. So, you know, if they want to schedule the rooms, they want to do that. But then, of course, we are still responsible for the building
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, that's,
Such a weird,
It is a very strange situation in terms of, so, and the other way of doing it, so that's one way, we just simply divest, you know, we lease it, essentially. We own the building, but they're responsible for it. That way, if they have the library legacy fund or whatever, they get to take care of it for the time. If they don't want to take care of it anymore, it comes back to the city. The second part of it is to go through this machinations as we're currently doing, where we try to define, okay, well, you have, you know, 1,800 square feet, and we have 1,000 square feet, so we'll take the 2,800 divided by the cost of whatever, and you get to pay that part, we'll pay that part. And room's gonna be scheduled by so one, and you're gonna have to do this, and you're gonna have to do that.
sounds so complicated.
It is, because what I really want to do, and this is what I was trying to tell Ashley, was really trying to minimize the interaction between the city and you. In my viewpoint, the city of Monroe is working with Benton County.
Mhm.
The city of Corvallis is there, but why am I working with the city of Corvallis? Why is city of Corvallis dictating to me? And I'm saying to me, the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're our rep. You're-
Yeah.
you're the
Why are
liaison.
why are they dictating that in that respect? And I know Ashley is looking at it from a slightly different viewpoint, because I understood, having talked to her now, why she was hired. She's a very good fundraiser.
Mhm.
And if you're fundraising, you want the community to know that this is a community library, because that's how she's gonna get her funds.
So raise the funds for paying for janitorial.
So that is, and
I mean-
so that in an essence, if I could characterize where the conversations are going, that's where it's going, is to get her to fundraise to pay for the janitorial.
And is she employed by Benton County or the city of Corvallis? or
City
the
of
City of
library?
Corvallis.
And the city of Corvallis is contracted with Benton, or Benton County is contracted with city of Corvallis to provide the library
Oh.
services.
Jeez Louise.
Now, mind you, Benton County and Corvallis are very intertwined.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
That's
Benton,
unfortunate
but
for
Benton
everybody.
County gets all the library tax dollars, and then they like say, oh, hey, we want, you know, you guys are already running city libraries, do you want to also run the county libraries and make it all part of the, you know, So they basically just
and
wash their hands of it and say, you deal with it.
And that's exactly what they did. Councilor Rich said,
I think your suggestion to have Ashley do some fundraising for a part-time cleaner is a great idea.
would we, and my thought at this point is that this, in my mind, this is resurrecting, we already have a classification, or actually a position we've had, it's called buildings and facilities and grounds.
Oh, yeah.
And my thought was to resurrect that.
Funded by,
Funded mostly by that, and a few hours for us
okay.
on our side, so we can take care of this building and city hall and other things that we have going on. Plus, they can also take care of the more of the detailed lawns and things of that nature, whereas public works staff can take care of the heavy duty stuff out there.
Water.
Mowing the big fields and
Right, the big fields and the
All
big
the-
stuff.
stuff along all the sides of the roads and ditches.
So that's my thought at the moment, and have, and this would be like a 30-hour position, and city Corvallis, Corvallis would pay 20 of that. And that's kind of where I'm gonna end up with her, and see what her counter is.
It's a good compromise. Hopefully she meets you in the middle.
I hope so, because I think that, I'm sure it will happen.
Or if she wants to just work out them doing their own janitorial to operate the library, then
That's fine.
we
with me too.
can figure out maintaining the other buildings.
Right, that's just as easy.
And if it's only, you know, 10 hours a week or something, you might even just contract that to somebody instead of getting an employee.
Right, if it were that few.
If it's that few of hours,
that's exactly
it's
what I
gonna
would
be more worth doing instead of,
do. Just hire someone locally who'd be willing to, it'd be an independent contract. We did that originally back in the COVID days. We had a young person who did that. So,
Well, we'll look forward to updates.
all right, well, anyway, yes, so yes, yeah, I said I didn't have anything, but clearly there was
Something.
ongoing discussion. but-
Yeah.
Of course. The next item on the agenda is City Hall next steps.
On the 25th, I have, going to have Stability Engineers out of Corvallis. I like them because they're all OSU Beavers, all civil engineers. The principal, Sean, will be down here to evaluate City Hall. I think that's a reasonable, we've talked about it, and I think at this point, due diligence is probably,
to see if like something for more like seismic upgrades or something.
yes.
That would be
How reasonable
necessary.
would it be to do that? Is you just look at me and say, if you have a bulldozer, you can take care of this easily. I mean, that would be, I have come up with some, there are, I love exploring ideas because sometimes I go into areas I've never really have been in before. But for instance, there's a couple places in Oregon, I mean, one manufacturer out of Portland, another one that does sales, but several states of modular facilities, like modular classrooms, for instance, that already have restrooms and everything else. You could take the reader building out, put one right, plop it right on this frame, plop right on the thing there for,
The Reader Building is the one across the street.
yeah,
from
the
City
one.
Hall?
Yeah, that's
really-
like the
really should be removed.
big
but,
shed or
there.
shop or
It
whatever.
was, it used to be a shop, a
Okay.
garage.
Right, yeah.
Um, So you could do something of that nature, for instance, as an example, for somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000.
Yeah, I think they had looked at back in 19 or something, they were talking about trying to do a steel building there or something
Right.
to replace it, but I think other things came up that took priority.
So it would be very easy to put a city hall
Right.
with a courtroom, in
Mhm.
that spot and do that. So there are options. But I think the first step is to get a structural engineer in. It is a building that's been around since the 40s or earlier. I think it's the 40s that it was built. I know the area that has them in court was around 1956 or 57, because I have the paperwork, have the original.
Yeah, I mean, if we could preserve it, it'd be cool, just because it does use like Monroe bricks in it and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah, what?
but also it needs to be safe and
Yeah.
seismically sound, because I don't know, there's a reason why there's not a ton of brick buildings in earthquake zones, but I don't know.
Junction City, they're modular for their city hall.
Yeah. they
It
already
makes
have
a
it
lot
in.
of sense. These
Yeah.
modulars are really very good. I mean, they all meet current building codes and, they're all,
Do they look okay now?
yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not,
Junction Cities was the modular that was over at Guarantee where the food trucks are now. They just brought that over.
and you don't need them high either. I mean, they have ground level ones as well. So you
Mm-hmm.
can put these, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually very, and they all come, restrooms, and you can have, say, you can also lease them too, for that matter.
Mhm.
So you can actually have them custom built for you, put them on site, and you can rent them, they can make a monthly payment on it. So there's lots of different options.
Do they stay, I mean, are they energy efficient? Like, do they stay
Yes.
warm? Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, they're all energy, they're all.
Oh,
I
nice.
think
all
they
meet
put
current
heat,
building codes.
I think they put those heat pumps on them and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
And they all have the heat pumps on the side.
oh,
Yeah.
nice.
They're all ready to go.
Oh.
They just plop them in. If you buy one off the floor, then you can have it installed in 3 or 4 days. if you have
Let's make a
everything
deal.
But just like a mobile home, they don't hold like a ton of value. I mean,
Nope.
they don't hold a ton of value. It's not like,
Properties are-
yeah.
Mhm.
So, sorry, so then the next thing is you're gonna get a quote from, the Ramjack
Structural,
people?
no, this is from Stability Engineers
Oh,
out of
okay.
Corvallis. It's an
Okay.
engineering firm that specializes in seismic upgrades, refits,
Mhm.
has extensive work with schools, brick buildings throughout the Pacific Northwest and Northern California.
Mhm.
done several projects, here in the, lots of projects in Willamette Valley and on the coast.
Got it.
So they're very, they're all, you look at their staff, they're all Oregon State University grads, in one way, shape, or form. If that's important. You know, I learned that in the 30s, this is on OPB, that like University of Oregon had all the, you know, commerce and, you know, economics and letters, you know, the letters essentially, and why Oregon State had the sciences and engineering. That's because in the 30s, when the Depression came, the schools were basically ready to close down. And so the legislature, the first one was to merge University of Oregon with then Oregon Agricultural College, which
Oh,
didn't fly. The second one was, okay, fine, if you're not gonna do that, then you don't duplicate your courses. So University of Oregon was given the arts and the commerce, the business
yeah.
and all that, and Oregon State was given the sciences. So there you go. One of those interesting things, I always wondered. Okay, but that's next, 25th, April 25th.
Okay. Ready to move on to new discussion items? Sure. Okay. Storage on public streets policy.
Okay, that is the very last page here. And this is what I gave you on the council. And, the policy, which is a policy note, not a resolution, but the idea at that time was, you said, okay, but pending further review before resolution. So I think the two big things here
Mhm.
is that one, these are for motorized vehicles in operating condition. Okay, not trailers or, you know, non-motor, you know, whether it be a pop-up camper or
Things that need to be hauled.
anything that has to be hauled or, you know, with something else, it has to be motorized. The second part of it is that we're saying that the street width, the easement width is 60 feet. That's like Commercial Street, Main Street, those are 60-foot width streets. Red Hills is a 55-foot. So, as an example. And I think it's very apparent when you go down Red Hills as a, say, opposed to commercial, like say in front of City Hall, or going up past Council Linder's house, that the streets are wide. And you have gravel on the sides, which make it more amenable to park things
Yeah.
in those areas, if that's, you know,
For better, for worse.
for better, or for worse. We're also limiting to 40 feet of vehicle. Now that would be the equivalent, that's basically your size of a class 1 motorhome, basically. For instance, the motorhome that's across from City Hall is 32 feet. The width is the standard width. It's the maximum width, I think, is 90, or what did I say, 8.5 feet. That's the maximum width that can be driven on Oregon roads without an oversized.
But your $1 million marathon's gonna have to park somewhere
That
else.
is correct.
What is that from?
That's just those big giant
Those giant
marathons.
things look like a.
They're commercial, yeah, they're commercial
are
buses
great.
that are converted or whatever.
There's some celebrity that has one, like, I need to.
Probably a lot of them do when they go on tour.
It's gonna be crazy.
Big tour bus.
So this wasn't, you know, I know that Councilor Myers had mentioned, that there might, you know, conflict, but some people can and some people cannot.
This makes it objective. It's about.
That is
street
very
life
objective, that it tells you exactly where you can and you cannot
And why,
and why.
yeah.
But it is also to help grandfather in folks that, you know, have been doing it, but haven't really had an issue. I mean, the fifth wheel in Red Hills, I guess, is a great example. There's a trailer down there on Shelby. I mean, the problem when you're going down those streets is when you have cars parked on both sides and plus things that are parked there permanently. It is difficult. And I know Fire Chief Barnes has had a problem in Red Hills with that. He even feels the streets are too narrow as it is,
Yeah, they
just with cars parked there.
Question about, so I mean, if commercial and Maine, was it commercial in Maine or just commercial?
Commercial Maine, Kelly is
Kelly,
another example.
okay, so if those are the streets that are approved because they meet the width requirement, or, and maybe I missed it in here, and it's in here, but like, does that then allow Red Hills Estates folks to move their
No.
vehicles over to other?
No, it's very specific.
I think it says it has to be in front of your,
Yeah, it has to be,
Yeah, it has to be within a
yeah,
certain.
a certain thing, it has to be within your parking.
Location placement be,
Yeah.
the street storage may only be adjacent to.
Adjacent to within the parking.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
So, you know, yeah, I thought of that too. It's like, no, I would. It irritates the heck out of me when someone parks in front of, I don't know why, they have every right to park up in the street in front of my house.
It's super frustrating though.
That is frustrating, and I don't know why. It's just like they're violating my
Your
property,
view.
in my view.
You don't want to stare at their old Escort.
So I do understand that. I do understand when you have someone else's, it's not a guest or, you know, but of course they have a right to. but just not
Unfortunately,
park
it's
there permanently.
public,
My
yeah.
fiance has the same exact problem. The neighbor parks their cars in front of his house all the time.
And in Corvallis, you have to get a permit to do that. A lot of towns have parking permits that you can park in front of your particular area and nowhere else. But then they have parking. They have the Rita maid. Right.
Yeah,
She's very nice. She'll work with you.
She's lovely, I heard.
Oh, I listened to those albums back when they were actually LPs. Vinyl.
So do you need a decision, Steve? I know we don't need decision that works.
No, just this is your comment or feedback. If this is,
We're ready for resolution
if
on
we're
this?
ready for a resolution, then let me know. You can always change the resolution or modify it at the time,
Mhm.
you know, because we're not making a decision tonight. You're just simply saying, giving me feedback and whether I should go ahead and put this into resolution format. We can certainly change it at the time. That's easy to do before you vote.
We talked about like the thing that isn't just long-term storage, but it's only part-time storage,
Intermittent storage.
intermittent storage, yeah. Like
So
maybe
how
leave
do you think
possibly-
that, so how do you think that might work?
I don't know, to me, if you have declared amount of usage, then if this is for 100% storage and vehicles used 20% of the time, then maybe the fee is only 80%.
Okay, so it's a fee thing. Okay, so so in other
That's
words, yeah, that would be fine. The question might be
The problem is how do you enforce it?
enforce it, right?
True.
I mean, it's not a bad idea, it's just,
No, it's a great idea.
it's just a matter of how, yeah, like coming up with a way that's reasonable to enforce.
I mean, and that would fall on Benton County or would that fall on us? Be
Us.
Benton County, oh, it'd be us.
Yeah, this is all us.
Sorry, when I said Benton County, I should clarify.
If you give a permit, then it's typically under us.
Okay.
If it's a parking ordinance, which in our case, is basically mimics state law, then the sheriff can easily enforce. That's the reason why we went to that parking ordinance, was to make it so that the sheriff could enforce that. This would be permittable, so we would basically say, you're gonna park this in this location. So be in front of your property lines, we're gonna know it's there because you have a permit. And so I'll think about that and see, because what I would do is wouldn't change this, as I would change maybe the fee schedule, which also I'm trying to get done at the same time for this next council. So let me think about that and then see how I can make that work.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yes,
For eligibility, E, businesses or commercial entities are not eligible, so that would mean like the person with like the tow truck, the commercial tow truck, or like, the
a
one in
dump
the-
truck.
The dump truck.
Someone wanted
Right.
to take their dump truck and park it and store it until, for in the off season.
Or a log truck
Or a
or
log
some,
truck,
you know,
or
people do all
any
sorts of
kind of
stuff.
commercial vehicle, or it could be a delivery van
Got
or
it.
something. you
Yeah.
know,
That's what I was understanding too.
Or
just
a
wanted to
food
make sure.
truck. Something of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I will go forth and make a resolution
Okay.
Okay.
and adopt us.
Go
I'll look at that, counselor, and see how I can make that work. I think was thinking of several ways, but when I put it in writing, it always makes it more clear for me.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Yeah, maybe not even a percent, just if you.
I mean, if it's a
consider your use it in Virginia.
Right, I'm thinking of 2 or 3 different ways that could be done easily without having to make it so like we're out there
Mhm.
checking, putting chalk marks on your tires.
Right.
Yeah,
Such fun.
because if it's a vehicle that gets used, you know, once or twice a week or something, I mean.
Right,
Well, a secondary vehicle does.
well, you're an example, and there's 2 other people that are examples of that. They do not use their vehicle all the time, but when they need to use it, they're gone for a week or 2 at a time.
Mhm.
And that's an example of that.
It's all gonna populate things that use it all the time.
There we go. I'll tell you, when those are outlawed altogether, the price of gasoline vehicles are gonna go way up.
Let's not talk about that.
I know.
If I see her.
They're working on it. All right, sir.
That sounds-
Policy for water leak adjustments.
Unless I need-
That's what they keep threatening.
All right. So this is something that has come up. Okay, so several years ago, there was some council discussion at the request of the city administrator at the time about what to do with people that have make ginormous leaks.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, their bill went from $100 a month to $1,400.
Oh,
All right, so that just happened. That just happened with the Dundee Monroe Land Company. This is the space that Sue Shea, the Shays were going to rent over the freeze. Water broke. Our staff were out there reading it. I think Don was the one who actually got out of the car and says, how come this meter is going 100 miles an hour? The needle is. And so Mark came over and listened, and clearly, so they shut the water off. And we let them know, but they used about $1,400 worth of
Yeah.
water. And when their previous bills are around $100. Okay, so there's no resolution, there's no ordinance on this. What there is just basically council.
Yeah, I think I remember at one point somebody coming to council to, you know, ask for,
Ask
pray for
forgiveness.
forgiveness, yeah.
Forgiveness exception.
So I would like most cities codify this in one way, shape, or form, and I would like to do that. What I have come up with and because there's been this concept of one-time forgiveness. If you present a plumbing bill or some explanation,
Mhm.
you can get one-time
Yeah.
kind of forgiveness for it. I do like that.
Yeah, so I mean,
I like that idea. However, the forgiveness isn't forgiveness. What we've done is we've gone back and taken 3 months, averaged that.
Mhm.
In this particular case, and so we basically, so if they have a $1,400 bill, you may take the last 3 months. I'd like to modify that. So here's the problem with 8,100 gallons of water, 81,000 gallons of water.
Oh, my God.
That is basically a full day's production of that water.
It's a lot of water.
Okay, that's a lot of cost.
Yeah.
And to write that off is a huge, matter of fact, I don't think that ethically or even legally we can do that.
Yeah.
State of Oregon says if you use the water, you gotta pay for it, whether it's a leak or not. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, there are sensors, there's things you can put on your deal, you can turn your water off. There's lots of different things that you have in your action to take care of. I do know that sometimes kids leave the hose on, and that's usually where we get some things. But the formula would be take the previous 3 months, add it to the amount that was used and divide that by 2. So it comes up roughly about half of what was owed. So you're basically mitigating half of the bill by doing that.
Would that cover the cost of operations for that or not? I guess it depends on how much was
Yeah,
lost.
it does. It actually, if you do it that way, it does. And the other part of that is we'd only be mitigating the water piece. The other pieces, they would still, I mean, we have sewer, stormwater, CIP, and bond. So those things would still be, we would still charge those. Just the water would be basically a combination of the usage, the actual usage, an average of the last previous 3 months, and then basically an average of the 2. So you roughly come up with about halfway. So the city isn't out.
Okay,
Where basically it's a way of cost sharing, a one-time cost share of the damage.
so then the real loss is just the water. It's not labor, it's not the,
At this point, it would be, we would be paying for the actual water production, and they would be, say, paid for the labor that went along with it.
So when we say one time, is it one time forever? I mean,
One time
basically-
per year,
ooh,
annually.
oh, per year. Okay, I was gonna say, is it every 3 years? Cause I know like, I don't know, I know some other organizations that, yeah, basically they say, if you haven't had an issue in the last 2 years or 3 years or whatever, then yeah, we can help you out with it. But if it's constantly,
yeah, I feel like once a year is kind of a lot, honestly. Personally, like that's, if you didn't learn last year and it's winter time again, why haven't you weatherized your pipes? You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be annually.
How many years would you, how many? How-
3,
3
maybe
years?
minimum 3
That's
years.
your until it happens to you.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, that's a good point. And I've had water, I've had a sprinkler line
I've had it happen.
every year
Yeah,
though.
that'll happen too.
Consecutively?
Yeah, Councilor Rich
Well,
has
but
said it.
everything breaks differently.
Yeah,
My rental over here, during the freeze, the pipe broke again. I fixed it 3 times already since I've owned the house.
I remember Counselor Rich, you had it and then a week or 2 later I had it with my irrigation system, but I guess I just. I feel like it could be abused. Every year, somebody needs forgiveness. And I am a forgiving, compassionate person. I would say I'm a socialist in a lot of ways, but that could get very expensive if it gets abused.
Well, leave it at the discretion of the administrator that.
It's your job,
Well, I think what Steve is saying is basically if we,
Right.
well, and I think he's saying basically if we have a policy in place, then he can say it falls under that policy and he can deal with it. And then if it's bigger or, I mean, we could also just set a dollar limit to
That's true.
the, to the thing instead of the
Annually.
average of the average of the average or what have you. I mean, you know what I mean? We could say, well, if it's like, we can wipe out up to $400 or $500 or something, but after that, like, sorry, it's too big and we can't absorb that cost, so.
So following on that, you could say, you could take my average of the average,
Of the
Right.
average. Of the average.
or $500.
Or a flat dollar amount.
Whichever's lesser, greater,
more or less,
whatever.
or whatever. So you can limit it to $500,
Okay.
but you can take the average if it's lower than that for a small leak. Because a lot of folks will come in and their bill is $144 more than it was.
But I think the commercial properties they're gonna have a bigger issue anyway if they have a leak because they have a bigger line. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
a quarter, a half inch or quarter inch line or
Somebody
whatever.
internally could drain our system pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I would be called in the middle of the night.
Whereas, somebody's residential is, even all the way on it, it can only spit out so much at once,
Right.
so.
I'm more inclined for more forgiveness for residential compared to commercial customers anyhow.
All right. Well, then what I will do is I'll take all that good information and I will craft it
Thank you, sir.
for you. Thank you. I appreciate your wisdom.
But yeah, if it's 1 or 2, if it's 2 years or something, I don't know, I think that's reasonable, it's just, like you said, we don't want to have it be abused. And I guess you could always say if it happens more than once in the year, they have to come to council and,
Yeah, that's true. Like,
And we
case by
can-
case after the first time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, but by then, if there is an abuse happening and you've already got an ordinance in place or a policy, like, you can't all of a sudden like single out one person and say you're abusing it. You have to hold them to the same standards everybody else is held to.
Yeah, you know, we have a lot of older homes in town, and as that happens, you know, as they get older, galvanized pipes, all that are gonna break. At some point, you have to invest and change your pipes. It's like, for now, it's a 1972 home with, and guess what? Well, that's not-
High pressure vault system up here in that park.
Mhm.
It went off. God off with this hissing noise like crazy up there.
You gotta imagine, yeah,
That
that's,
old Frank, I said, there's something going on up here. And he just pressurized the whole city
Oh,
with all the pressure from up that hill.
115 PSI.
And guess what happened? Jack? Lots of
flooding?
Breakage.
Oh.
Yeah, we have that scheduled for inspection this year.
Good idea.
Okay. So let's see, we got a review here of our items for city council meeting on the 22nd. We've got the county national hazard mitigation plan resolution.
So you've all, we've looked at that and it's now come back from the feds as approved, and now you folks need to approve the Monroe portion of it.
Next is a resolution adopting the storage of public streets policy. We just talked about that. Storage. And after that, ordinance changing fees in municipal code to reference council resolution.
I will attempt it. It's intertwined in every section of our code.
Okay, and then we've got resolution adopting fees.
We will do that.
That's or fees or fee schedule.
Yes, we adopted the master fee schedule. This will be now populating with the master fee schedule of fees.
Oh, okay.
I will also add to that, I have to give you folks an update on the festival.
And then presentation will be Ashley Chavez. from
Right.
the library.
Right.
That's at the next city hall.
Yes.
City council meeting, yeah. Presentation.
City council.
I know what you meant. Oh, blanked on that, okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
We've had a lot of meetings this month. Do we know?
Oh, just a reminder about the Republic Services one on Wednesday.
Special session Wednesday.
So public services, basically just to get input from the public and stuff on, yeah, the increase in the fees to allow for weekly pickup of green and recycle in addition to trash.
Yep. So it'll be exciting,
So
very exciting.
Trash, even though it's about trash.
Clay, come on. All right, if there's nothing else,
All right.
thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Yep.